Signore e signori, buonasera. Buonasera, benvenuti. New York University alla Casa Italiana Zerilli Marimo. It's my very great pleasure to welcome back N.I.C.E, New Italian Cinema Events, to New York University for the 34th time. Basically, N.I.C.E, as you know, or you might know, New Italian Cinema Events and Casa Italiana were born the same year, and from the very beginning, they're collaborating in bringing contemporary Italian cinema to New York. It's either the first or the second film of the guest that we have, and I would like to take the occasion to ask the executive director of N.I.C.E, Matilde Castagnoli, to please present our greetings to Viviana del Bianco, who is the founder of N.I.C.E. And a big round of applause because Viviana del Bianco started bringing contemporary Italian cinema to New York when nobody else was doing it. Now, as you know, there are many other festivals and many other initiatives, and thank God, and we are very happy, the more the merrier, that bring Italian cinema here. But when Viviana started, it was really a sort of pioneering endeavor to bring Italian cinema. So we're very grateful to Viviana to continue this collaboration, and please send her our love.
She sends her love as well.
Grazie. Thank you very much. Before asking Mila Tenaglia, who is the executive director for N.I.C.E here in New York, I would like to show you a very brief greeting from Steve Della Casa, who is the co-director of the film that we're going to see tonight. So he sent us this short video with a greeting. So we're going to watch it just a few seconds, and then I'm going to call Mila to come to the podium with me.
Del N.I.C.E vedrà ospitato un documentario che ho fatto insieme a Giancarlo Rolandi su Dario Argento, ed è una scelta che mi onora tantissimo perché credo che questo festival sia molto importante per promuovere il grande cinema italiano all'estero, e quindi è un grande piacere per me parteciparci, essere presenti nella bellissima location di Zerilli Marimo e avere la possibilità di far conoscere meglio questo grande regista anche a un pubblico internazionale.
Steve Della Casa is the co-director of the film that we're about to see, and he thanked everybody for this chance to present a great director of Italian cinema. And now it's the turn of Mila Tenaglia to join me on stage, and to Matilde and Mila, please.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. We are very happy to be here and to have the director, Giancarlo Rolandi, and the producer, Maurizio Tedesco. Please. And also thank you to Paola, and that she's a festival director as well. And we are going to have later the Q&A with Leonardo Carpenter, so please stay and join us. And also, do you want to say something about the festival and what we're going to have tonight?
Hi, hello everyone. I'm very excited to be here. This is my first time in New York City as well. And as I was saying before, Viviana sends her greetings. This is a time of year that is very busy for us. So we had to split, and she's in Florence curating other events, and I'm here. And yeah, tonight we're going to see Profondo Argento, a documentary about the iconic Italian director Dario Argento. I guess all of you know who he is, and we're going to find out more about him with this beautiful documentary. So yes, please enjoy and stay for the Q&A afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Stay with us for the Q&A. Thank you. Enjoy the film. Please welcome the co-director of Profondo Argento, Giancarlo Rolandi, and the producer, thank you, Maurizio Tedesco. Abbassiamo un po' i microfoni che fanno un effetto argento in sala. It's a great pleasure to have you, thank you. Shockingly beautiful film. I have to admit that I have seen only one film by Dario Argento. It was a few years ago when the Anthology Film Archive dedicated a whole retrospective. And I was terrified of Dario Argento films as a kid. And when I was in junior high school, I even learned the soundtrack of Profondo Rosso with the flute, quello. And only playing that already was terrifying to me. But finally I had to win.
For a lot of people, it's the same.
Vero? And I had to win myself and to go see Renzi L'Uccello dalle piume di cristallo as my first film. And it blew me away. And I'm so glad that you dedicated so much time and space to that film. Incredible crew, amazing cast. So, and it was this opera prima. Everything was already encapsulated in that. But from what I said, you understand that I'm not a Dario Argento expert. So that's why I asked to moderate this discussion to Leonardo Campaner, who is a Ph.D. student here in our department of Italian studies, and his specialty is Italian cinema. And Leonardo, take it from here.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
But first of all, hello everyone, and I want to thank Stefano and Mila for inviting me to moderate this event. It's a privilege and an honor for me, and to meet these two directors and producers. We had an opportunity to speak a little bit earlier upstairs, so my mind was working, trying to figure out what I could ask them. I'll start by thanking them again for this beautiful, very intimate portrait film of Dario. I'll just say Dario for short, as if I knew him, because I felt like I was getting to know him very closely watching it. So I guess
Be careful to the knives.
Yeah, I know, exactly, yes.
Too confidential.
maybe that's the part of the point. Yeah, so I guess my first question is probably the most obvious one, but also the most essential, which is like if you can tell us a little bit about the genesis of the project and even about some of the choices that you made in dividing the film, structuring the film, the way you selected themes to go with. What struck me also is that you structure it according to certain themes, but it's still at a kind of chronological movement towards his career. So you felt you start from the beginning, you go towards the sort of the peak, but it was also you managed to really like capture certain particular theme, and that was a very interesting way to negotiate between the thematic and the chronological. And also upstairs you spoke a little bit about the animation and the work with the archives as well. So if you can tell us a little bit about how you went about it and the experience.
Okay, first I want to thanks to everybody. Thanks to stay here tonight. Thanks to Casa Italia, to Leonardo, to Stefano, to Mila and Matilde of N.I.C.E. and Casa Italia, because it's not, I don't know if it's the final step, but after a long travel all around the world of this documentary, it's a big pleasure to stay here tonight in New York. So thanks first. Then I will pass the word. And sorry if my English is a little bit rusty, but Maurizio later will speak about the genesis, come è nato il progetto. I want to say only this. For me, it's a commission. They committed to me to realize the movie. Steve Della Casa is a film critic and a writer, a very passionate man and has a strong relationship with Dario Argento. So he was the door to open the box of regards. And I try to find a track. In movies we use tracks. The fundamental track is an homage to a style. Dario shot without VFX, without special effects, in film, not in digital. And we shot all the things you saw are shot, not VFX. Also the smoke in the water is water, ink and glycerin, for example. And the shadows, the Chinese theaters of shadows, the same, is shot, not made in post-production. And this is the come si dice cornice?
It's the frame.
The frame. This is the frame. I read an old interview of Dario. He said, "I'm not one. I live with another Dario. He lives in the shadows. And sometimes I speak with him and I ask something to him and he answers to me. And I try to use the shadow as the key of the narration. Shadow and mirror as the same. The final step, the final is an homage to the movies because I love movies, and me too. And when he did like, when you are alone in the theater, you and the screen, I remember Norma Desmond. Norma Desmond was the principal character of Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard. And he did the same of her when the movie ended. Here I am, the meal, ready for my cut up. So before Madame Bovary, c'est moi is a phrase of Gustave Flaubert, who tells us that in every narration a part of us goes nel racconto, in the tale, in the story, in the movie, in the book, in the paint, and so I try to these simple things. And Maurizio maybe ci puoi dire tu delle cose su come invece è nato produttivamente il progetto.
Yes, first of all I want to thank la Casa Zerilli Marimò con il suo non so se direttore o presidente Stefano Albertini, che 25 anni fa ci ha ospitato con un altro film, un film che poi grazie alla Casa che ha portato molto fortuna. Il film era Il bagno turco di Fersan Özpetek, primo film.
Should I start from now? And
yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. I'll use the first person. So
yes.
I want to thank the Casa Italiana that 25 years ago already hosted us with the film that went on to have a lot of good luck. And this was I guess the title in English would be The Turkish Bath by Fersan Özpetek. Who's also like a great Turkish-Italian director who's had a very long career since.
This project was born in different moments because the COVID, because Dario was sick and he would is doing to prepare the new film, but was impossible to start, and so with Giancarlo and Steve, abbiamo cercato. We
tried, yeah.
Su un libro che aveva scritto Steve, che raccontava la parte più intima di Dario Argento.
So there was a book that Steve wrote that told about the most intimate aspects of Argento's life and personality.
E raccontava the music and the shooting. All these things in different way, no? Sembra. And Giancarlo can continue how do you say, the motive for arrive at this point.
Yeah, cioè we didn't follow a chronology, just arguments, and especially the Dario before to be be Dario Argento, because when he shot the Bird of Crystal Plumage in United States, he gained in 1970, first 3 weeks, $1,008,100. For in Italy, big money. So when you arrive with this presentation bill, biglietto da visita, diciamo.
Oh yeah, like a
with
ticket,
with your card, no?
Oh yeah, like
with
a card, a business card.
It's a poker of vases. Also because in Italy the politics in that period was very strong. In fact, he says when he was worked for a newspaper in Italy, he worked a lot of years as a critic. But for example, he said Sergio Leone in Italia, the official critics say no, Sergio Leone is not good cinema. No. We want only not left-oriented, but movies with con impegno.
Yeah, there was a big thing about impegno, commitment to social causes,
social issues,
and
blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But Sergio Leone did strong movies with a view, and Argento understood this, and he had a big success on this. But nobody loves him at that time during the 70s. In the 90s, 80s, 90s, Steve, as a young critic, loved him. And so they had made a relation, and here we are after a lot of years.
Great. I was going to ask a different question, but since we spoke about Sergio Leone, and it's actually a kind of a key part of the documentary, it struck me that there is a lot of connections with what Leone is doing with the Western genre and what Argento is doing with the horror genre in many ways, because Leone is taking a genre that was kind of quintessentially American, with very with a lot of the iconography and a lot of the sort of the semiotic elements of the Western, and he removes them from their socio-historical and political context and abstracts them, kind of mythologizes them in many ways. He shoots them in Spain, he works with these grand archetype, and yet they have this sort of operatic, poetic quality. And Argento with the horror genre is also doing, tell me if you agree with this, is also doing something of that kind with the known spaces that one of the critics that you interviewed as well is doing.
I spoke for Maurizio because he told me this story. When he was young, he was the assistant editor with Pierpaolo Pasolini editor, and he worked for many years also with Fellini and other important directors in Cinecittà. And he told me during a lunch years ago a story about Sergio Leone, quando lui. The structure of Sergio Leone, you are correct, is Greek mythology, pure Greek mythology. The travel of a hero. Before they start, you Americans started this reflection during the 70s, that on the base of Spielberg movies, on George Lucas movies, the travel of a hero. But he used this stuff, the Western, how can I say, the Western science, first more true. Cioè, the John Wayne cowboy, I love John Ford, cioè. Stagecoach is a masterpiece in the history, of course, but it's difficult if you go on the horse for 500 miles to arrive clean with your shirt polite. It's impossible. Leone did this. And then his seeds went to some Peckinpah movies. It did a revolution of the genre. But the story told me Maurizio, I saw with another eye, and I think it's true. Horror is a genre in Italy. It's a shame if a director in 70s or 60s made an horror movie. So really a shame for critics, but we Italians did a lot of good movies. And I told you before, Dario, after the American success, became Argento.
Yeah, absolutely, and and it's but there is like a whole like I'm thinking of Bava, and there's like a whole genre that was still being made, but it wasn't, and it was speaking to the times, but it wasn't at first appreciated by critics, and but those films had a life afterwards outside of Italy in many cases.
They are made with little things, artisanal things, but with a lot of fantasy.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
lot of fantasy. We had Cinecittà was a great place to do movies. You American knows well.
All right, I have one more question. Maybe we can open it up to the audience. I guess I want to go back to the character of Argento. There's so this emphasis on shadows, on his darker side. It was very interesting because what emerges, like his daughter Asia speaks about this sort of secret garden, this secret reservoir of shadows, of ghosts, of all these dark stuff, in a sense that only he knows, it's only accessible to him, and he, even though he speaks very candidly about himself, you can feel that he's kind of protecting this side of him. He's not revealing too much, and I appreciate in that sense one of the final images of the film with the animation that opens up and reveals kind of like all that's going on inside and then closes again. But I wonder if, like in interviews,
Thank you.
Yeah?
You understand very well this. I'm very happy.
Okay, I'm glad. But yeah, I was wondering, like, if in interviews you, I don't know if this is indiscreet, but if you try to like push him on it a little bit, if you try to like look for some more revelation about this inner side. There is a suggestion that's there in the film that a lot of it had to do with his relationship with his parents and his father. Perhaps there is really, he claims that to have rediscovered his father. His daughter claims that they were somewhat severe, they were like strict with him early on. So that we don't know, but maybe I'm reading the sort of psychoanalytic thing from his movies.
My opinion is everybody needs to kill the father in the imagination. It's it's psychological process. After adolescence, adolescence, you need to live. Dario did it. Going to Paris, he was very rich, not rich, but very good family. Also involved with movies and photograph, but he left. And then he arrived to, and for me, my opinion is really the seeds of all the movies seen in Paris, all this love for movies is very well presented in Deep Red, because the killer is an old actress of black and white movies. It's very strong as a symbol, this. And Deep Red is the most famous known movie of Dario. So these connections are, I don't know if I answered completely to your question, but this is my opinion.
Yeah. No, in fact, oftentimes the killers, even in the Bird with the Crystal Plumage, the killer ends up being a woman, and he identifies Madame Bovary c'est moi, no? So it's like he identifies perhaps with the victim, perhaps with the killer, or both. And the viewer, I think actually I was reading a paper recently about how in horror films it's not clear whether the audience oscillates shifts between identifying with the killer and identifying with the victim, and there's a kind of pleasure in the interplay between the two.
Tennis.
Yeah, tennis, exactly.
Tennis of emotions.
I don't know if you want to add anything, otherwise we can open it up to the audience. You want to say something?
This moment is hard for us that we are involved in on the movies because something is changing, and will be very difficult. How do you say?
There's no protection for Italian movies in this period in Italy for the governor.
Is a bad moment, and now we are waiting that the government return to give to the producer. There is a fiscal
Tax credit.
say, and now I think will be so difficult for 1 year. 1 year again. We have to wait the decision of the government.
Okay. Yeah. So the government, the government's recent policies have made it difficult to find for public financing of Italian cinema, but hopefully in a year from now.
Not only public, because it seems to be a surgery.
Yeah.
No, we need how can I say, sagge, no? Come si dice sagge? Leggi sagge.
Oh yeah, wiser laws than these. Yeah.
Wise laws about movies, doing movies. We don't have now. We are again under a big pressure for international productions, for platforms, not for theaters. So serious, because Italy is beautiful. You have everything, mountain, sea, historic places, a lot of things. And of course, it's a natural, the story is like this. The story of the cinema is like this. Also in America, where he is the principal, in Hollywood, because no rain, sun, near the desert, near the sea, is a good place to do movies. So we are waiting something change, but I don't think so. It's so simple. You know very well in the last days, I think.
Yeah.
Make America great again.
Just a question regarding the US and Italy. When I went to that screening at at the Anthology Film Archive, the audience was very different from the audience I've ever seen at the retrospective of an Italian director in New York. I can more or less predict who's going to be in the audience of an Italian director, Italian actor retrospective at MoMA, at Lincoln Center, and almost know them all by name, the people that are present in the audience. At the Anthology Film Archive, it was a very different crowd. So Dario Argento is really a director that became somehow part of a certain American film scene, unlike any other Italian director. And the other thing is that...
Only Sergio Leone at first.
Yeah. Two directors that were snobbati,
It's correct.
that were sort of considered lesser, children of a lesser god, by the official Italian god of cinema. And the other time was I went with a journalist friend of mine. I went to a convention that basically featured Mario Bava and Argento's fans, and that was another experience because it was in a hotel here in New York, and people were dressed in costumes, and it was not Halloween, and these were people, and not 10 or 20, it were hundreds of people that knew the films by heart, that knew every single frame, that would discuss passionately about this. So what is behind these films, and Argento in particular, as a cultural phenomenon in the US? Is there any idea that either of you has about what make Argento become such an icon?
Not only Argento. Jones speaks to the deepest part of us. It's not an intellectual, but it's belly stuff. And fear is a sentiment, an emotion, is an emotion very difficult to show. You don't have to be shy to show. For example, I think to another European director, but the most important movies he did in the United States, Alfred Hitchcock, we can say the progenitor of every genre, like thriller and maybe horror, because Psycho has a little bit of horror inside. Thrilling is a big emotion. Dario decided, I think, my opinion, because it's very different. For example, Christmas night, he don't stay with family. He went to, come si dice, va da mangiare ai senza tetto?
He went to feed the homeless.
Feed the homeless and serve the Christmas lunch, or in Italy it's Christmas dinner, 24. Very different to his movies. He explored without, and he was alone also to do this, because it's difficult travel with no protection nets. My opinion, I was Maurizio as a producer did many different movies and knows everybody in movies in Italy. And he too was not shocked but touched by the sweetness of this man. We were touched, because not only because he's 84 now, but I think he was always like this. When I was younger, he needs to, of course. But this is my idea, because especially in the USA, because always Maurizio said to me, the most important result you can be proud, but the most important result is the success of public. When a lot of people go to see your movie, pay a ticket, this is the most important success, in my opinion. Also, if I love Czechoslovakian movies subtitled in Bulgaro, in Bulgarian.
No, scusa, dico una cosa in italiano così è più chiara. Il cinema è una cosa che per chi lo fa è una delle cose più belle del mondo. Non voglio dire cose esagerate, ma insomma io ho una carriera molto lunga, perché vengo dal montaggio, ho cominciato con Pierpaolo Pasolini, per cui ho fatto tutta la gavetta. Il cinema è fatto da artigiani, alcuni intellettuali, e poi una forza lavoro eccezionale, per cui questo è il cinema che noi siamo stati capaci di fare negli anni, e che è rimasto lì, Dario Argento è un altro artigiano, è uno che sicuramente ritaglia, no? Le sue bamboline, le sue cose, cioè, è una cosa che ti sconvolge, così calmo.
On the basis of his career and his work with the variety of very different directors, he reached the conclusion that cinema is made by a few intellectuals, many craftsmen, and many people who work in the movies. And the result of this concerted work of all these people together is what remains. And Dario Argento belongs to the category of the craftsman. The fact that he cuts these little paper dolls and gives an idea of the craftsmanship that is involved in his making films. And I believe that ti interpreto anche oltre che tradurti, that craftsman is in the highest Italian tradition of artist, craftsman. Benvenuto Cellini was a craftsman, and he was an amazing artist, but also a craftsman.
It's difficult to answer to this. Where start art and end craft?
Does really one end and the other begin, or there? We leave it to the others.
I remember I love a very, very good writer, American writer and director. Aiutami, i tre usi del coltello, il regista del verdetto. Vabbè, I forgot. I forgot the name of this very, very important American writer for theater, and also he directed some movies. The Verdict, he wrote with Paul Newman, Gary Rose.
Mamet.
Okay, David Mamet. Sometimes
It takes a village, right?
Saying something to at the end of his movie about Hollywood, but not Hollywood in California, the other Hollywood, and the crew was there too. The last words of the movie was, "Movies better than work."
We have time for a few questions from the audience, and we have a microphone here that goes around. Yes, one here.
So I just wanted to ask, you mentioned that it's become more difficult because of the government to make movies. It's not as it's more difficult in the last few years. So what is the role of the government in promoting cinema in Italy, or do they provide financing, or you have a cultural commission? What's happened that made it different than, say, like the 1950s, where there were all these great movies coming out?
Allora, the best person to answer to this question is Paola Poli, the wife of Maurizio.
Paola Poli, the question is about what makes it so...
Qual è, cioè come è organizzata la Film Commission?
Come funziona il finanziamento di film, in particolare da parte dello Stato?
La domandina.
Lei è l'attrice creativa del film.
No, ma se vuoi rispondo io.
Miss Poli is a creative producer of this film, and she also the director of several Italian film festivals.
Budget? Come si chiude un budget?
No.
Come...
Da dove vengono i finanziamenti del cinema in Italia?
Arrivano
e qual
dallo
è il
Stato.
ruolo che lo Stato ha nel provvedere, nel fornire questi finanziamenti?
Le problematiche legate rispetto agli anni 50, per esempio.
Io ti posso dire la situazione ad oggi. La situazione di oggi è molto difficile, lo diceva prima Maurizio, no? Cioè molto problematico trovare i finanziamenti. Peraltro c'è un anno di fermo, di stop totale in Italia, perché non c'erano cambi di governo, non c'erano le commissioni, e quindi il 24 è stato un anno in cui non si è prodotto praticamente, se non pochissime cose.
Yes, I have to make a premise to that, to your question. The state, that is in Italian means the Italian state, plays a fundamental role, or has played a fundamental role in the production of Italian films. They receive tax credits, and they can also receive financing, like for the budget. And there are committees in the Ministry of Culture, Divisione del Cinema, that examine the proposals that they receive from producers, and they decide an allocation of funding to different films. On top of and these are the financing from the central government through the Minister of Culture. Then there are regional film commissions that can also provide additional funding or substantial help, in-kind help. But that's what Ms. Poli is referring to, is the fact that in the year 2024, they completely froze any kind of financial support to film productions, bringing the film industry to a substantial halt, complete stop.
Sì, era...
In some very small towns in the United States, they have film commissions, and they don't necessarily provide financing, but what they will do is provide programs to identify like sites in a town that would be appropriate for filming, like make, promote, like,
I want
barns,
to
historic
answer
buildings?
because the impression that I don't want to came out from this night, we don't have as an assistential government, cioè un governo assistenziale, non so come ho detto bene, only,
a welfare.
Not only, cioè, except questo è difficile per me, un modo virtuoso, cioè it's a circular economy that gave the money. It's not money lost in films. Tax credit is the most important thing. Then of film commission that they have a return. For example, in Italy, there's one fiction. One of the few fiction we sell all over the world, the Commissario Montalbano. I don't know if you know him. Okay, Montalbano was a piston, a very strong engine for the tourism of the eastern part of Sicily.
Si chiama cineturismo.
Cineturismo, cineturismo, yeah. Cioè, quello che voglio dire è che non è che abbiamo uno Stato che butta i soldi così, però sostiene lo sviluppo, sostiene le cose.
Non succede, è completamente diverso.
Lo so.
So what he said is that it's not that the government throws money at cinema. It's an investment because the money is going to come back in different forms. So one of the examples is cineturismo, that is tourism triggered by cinema. There are lots of people that want to go to visit and stay in places that have been the set of movies. The case of White Lotus, for example, the American series took place in Taormina, was taken by storm like 2 summers ago. It was only Americans in that part of the island.
It's impossible to go to Taormina right now during the summer.
You need to wait for 3 or 4 years and it's going to become available again. So the money is considered the money that goes to support cinema, but in this case more the film commissions, right, than the Ministero dei Beni Culturali. It's aimed to the promotion of the territory, to the promotion of touristic sites. So in some way or another, it's money that will benefit the general economy of the country because it will come back in different ways. Giusto?
And there's co-productions as well with France and Spain, and gives jobs and the jobs and European.
We have a long story of useful laws for movies, for arts, for schools. We have trouble now also for schools, for a lot of troubles.
You may have just answered my question. Why did they stop it?
Because we have a very we have the not fascist but a very right-oriented government. The first thing is they are trying to build an image. The image is we are under attack of immigration, we are under attack of many things. So art will arrive later, maybe.
And if I may, the present government of Italy is a right-wing government, and generally speaking, it has a sort of mistrust of culture in general and of filmmaking in particular.
No, I'm not agree. I'm sorry.
The previous Minister of Culture, in one of his enlightened statements, said, for example, we are tired of seeing these left-wing films, and it's about time that somebody makes a film about Pirandello. In the year before he said this statement, 2 films about Pirandello had come out in Italy. That means not only that he is what we can call an ignorant, but also that he doesn't go to the movies. This is the kind of people that you find in the central government. And there is a mistrust, the fact that in general, anybody who writes, anybody who reads, anybody who goes to the movies is a suspect.
You know, I think it's very difficult to arrive to explore this territory, because we speak about the last century. During the 20s and the 30s, we had Mussolini, fascism, a very strong dictator and very strong government. But during the fascism, the culture works. Works.
What does it mean, culture works? That's interesting.
We made a lot of films. There is a cultural broth boiling, still boiling. Today is worst from the cultural things, my opinion, because they are not able. The story of our culture minister, of last two minister of culture in Italy, is like a clown tale, really.
I know.
Really.
That's what I'm saying.
If I tell you the story, you say, no, it's a comedy, it's a slapstick comedy. No, it's the truth. I don't want to make a political, of course it's a political discussion, but I'm only looking at the facts. We have a strong tradition of, I repeat, schools. We have a great studio, it was Cinecittà. We have a big archive. We have the 80% of cultural heritage of the world. But not, I don't say because I'm an Italian, no. It's true, and we have to work seriously about this. And we had, also before, it's a long story, we don't have, come si dice, un censimento.
A census.
A census of our cultural things, art, architecture. We don't have. It's impossible. It's a story of all the time.
No, I agree that it's not only a problem of this last government, of course. Other questions? Yes, the lady there.
Thank you. So thank you, Maurizio, Giancarlo.
Thank you.
Yes, beautiful film. This is sort of a two-part question about collaboration, so if it gets too complicated, let me know. But the first part, a lot of collaboration seems to be based on serendipity, like the way Dario met the musicians, and he found them in sort of a serendipitous way, in a way. So I just wondered if the way you met was serendipitous. That's part one. And part two, he seems to be a blend of ego but sweetness and gentility, and because you worked with such a wonderful persona as Dario, does that make your next project that much harder to find somebody so unique, I guess?
La prima era sulla collaborazione, il rapporto tra di voi, se vi siete incontrati, come vi siete...
Non ci vediamo più.
E poi la seconda è sul carattere... E la seconda è sul carattere di dolcezza di Dario, e sul fatto che se questo in qualche modo determina il tuo prossimo progetto, se vuoi andare verso personaggi simili.
It's very difficult to answer to the second. For the first, I can say that me and him, we fight every day. Steve is... walking around, I can say like this. No, but fights, also are sometimes you need hot things to make a good fire. And I think we try to do this. So it's not the first job. We did 3 different movies, documentary. The second was very difficult to do because I spoke about a very important doctor of medicine, a very difficult argument. But the first was like a sparkle, very good sparkle, because we found many things to share, and we did a documentary about Ennio Flaiano, the writer and screenwriter, especially the screenwriter that collaborated strongly with Federico Fellini from the beginning until 8½. We had Elio Germano, the Italian actor, just won the La Palma d'Oro, the Golden Palm in Cannes. Black and white. He said no black and white, no black and white, no black and white, black and white. So we did this movie. We went to Venice and we had a big success. So fight, love is life. Not serendipity, no.
Keep fighting and loving. And this is all the time we have for tonight. And I want to thank again Giancarlo Rolandi, Maurizio Tedesco, and Leonardo Campaner. Before you go, I would like to ask Mila to remind us of the other appointments for nice new Italian cinema events in New York, since Greek mythology was mentioned before as a sort of an archetype for Dario Argento, but also for Sergio Leone. Tomorrow at 5, we have a big musical about the awakening of the Greek gods from a company in Agrigento. So if you want to refresh your Greek mythology, come back tomorrow. Domani alle 5. And Mila.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to remind you 2 appointments. Tomorrow at the Italian Cultural Institute, we're going to have Gloria by Margherita Vicario. She's going to join us remotely. And then on Tuesday at Casa Italiana, we're going to have Zamora by Nero y Marcore. And actress Marta Gastini, she's going to join us for a Q&A. So please come, and thank you very much.
Thank you.